What up, junkies? How y'all doing? Dan Kasper Show is on the air, radio dials. You got a couple of those. You guys know the drill. Online, sportstalk1051.com. Got the app, your Google and Alexa home devices, the YouTube live video stream also up and rolling. Hopefully all had a fantastic weekend and you are ready to hit it for another week here. First full week in October. Appreciate you tuning in wherever you may be tuning in on this October 3rd. And I think y'all know the game plan here this morning. I mean, what the heck are we going to talk about, huh? Holy moly, what a weekend. Started off with Badgers getting just dominated by Illinois over the weekend. I mean, and Brett Bielema's return. Can you come up with a better script for him? In his return to Camp Randall, 34-10 victory against Wisconsin. And then during the Packer game yesterday, it was reported, later announced, that Paul Chryst was let go of his duties as head football coach for the University of Wisconsin. So for those who have been kind of clamoring for it, asking for it, wanting it to happen for the last couple weeks, maybe a little bit longer, the last few weeks, maybe even couple years or so. I don't know, but it happened. And Jim Leonard will be interim head coach. That's the key. He's not doesn't have the full-time gig. He's interim coach. We'll hear from athletic director Chris McIntosh and the new interim head coach Jimmy Leonard coming up here in just a little bit on the opening drive here. But in case you missed any of the late night press conference from last night, but your thoughts, your reaction, your analysis on the move. Are you actually surprised they did it at this point in time in the season? Are you surprised that maybe they actually just did it overall? They moving on from Paul Chryst? Players taking to social media, not the majority that have gone out there and said something, not too happy about it. Not too happy with the move, especially like Braylon Allen, kind of going out there and a lot of players, which is to be expected, right? I mean, it's to be expected for the most part. So, but your thoughts, your reactions, start hitting us up with some texts, 715-830-1912. And then, I mean, kind of all through the weekend too. Brewers. Now they just need a flat-out miracle. They need to win out, and the Phillies need to get swept by the Houston Astros. That's the only shot the Brewers have to make the postseason. Couldn't get it done. 12 innings yesterday, they fell to the Marlins. Saturday, fell to the Marlins. Grinded a 1-0 victory on Friday, but Philly gave them opportunities leading up to that. Then give credit to the Phillies. It's like, all right, you guys aren't going to take this from us, so we're just going to win the next couple games. And then, but 3 more games left to go here against Arizona. Tonight, 6:40. Tomorrow, 6:40. So we'll see how it all plays out. But Woodruff's going to be on the mound for the Brew Crew tonight. Eric Lauer will get to start on Tuesday. Corbin Burns slated to get the start on Wednesday. But it sure looks like it's over with. Unless, again, some sort of miracle happens with this Brewers team. And then yesterday afternoon, Packers getting the victory, although it was shaky, nervous, frustrating, what the heck sort of thing. New England ended up going with their third-string quarterback after the first series after Brian Hoyer left the game with a concussion. You're thinking, all right. But just a poo-poo type of performance in the first half from the Packers offense. Kept New England in the game. Rodgers throwing a pick 6 right before half. Defense struggling there for a little bit to stop the run, allowing New England to force overtime, or I should say Green Bay maybe forced overtimes because they had to tie it. But Green Bay getting the walk-off field goal with no time left in overtime to escape with a victory against New England to move to 3-1. So, yeah, how was your blood pressure during that game yesterday? Because mine was kind of all over the place, I'll be honest with you. That was one of the – I don't really get too animated, and I didn't get really animated from the game, but it's just like frustrated, annoyed, and I don't really get that way anymore with a lot of games. But that one I did. That one I definitely did, because it was just like, what the heck is Matt Patricia out coaching Joe Barry right now? I mean, is this what we're doing? Is this exactly what we're seeing right now? So, but they got the victory, I guess. Lots to take away from, though. But I think we would all agree with what Aaron Rodgers had to say after the game, that this type of winning isn't sustainable. Yeah, I would agree that this way of winning is not sustainable. And I mean, he said that he played like you know what in the first half. But he also said too, he's like, usually I don't have two bad halves. So I mean, full of confidence yesterday that he could turn it around and have a good second half. And he did. But who gets some game balls from that game if you want to hand them out? Let us know. Shoe Doctor's bullpen with a quick text, 715-830-1912. We got studs and duds coming up. So hit me up with your studs and duds. Your Monday morning quarterbacking second, if you had to, hindsight's 2020. If you had to make you could go back in time, or what Monday morning quarterbacks are like, right? Well, I would have done it this way. I would have done it this way. I would have done it differently. What would have been that one move or one decision? Could be from anything from over the weekend, too. It doesn't necessarily have to be like just Packers or Badgers or Brewers or anything like that, but you can throw out a different one out there. I got mine, and it is involving an NFL game, but not Green Bay. A lot of people are Monday morning quarterback in this one, too, and including myself. So we'll get to that coming up a little bit later on as well. So let's just should we just jump into this thing? Opening drive. Not too often do we after a Packers game like that, do we have to kind of go in a different direction here. But this news yesterday, I mean, talk about getting a news dump during a Packers game when it was a close Packers game too. I mean, come on, no. But Paul Chryst, no longer head coach for the Badgers. Do you like the move? And be honest with me. If there's anybody out there that doesn't like the move, just say, no, I don't like it. Be honest. There's your opinion. I'm sure we'll hear from quite a few of you who like the move. I put up an early poll question on Twitter yesterday. If you haven't partaken in it yet, you can just hit me up at DANKASPER. If you don't have Twitter, you can hit me up with a text or something. But who do you want to see be the new head football coach? Now, Chris McIntosh did say yesterday that it will be a search. He says he owes it to the program, to the university, to do a full search for a new head coach. That doesn't mean that Jimmy Leonhard won't get the job. But 63.1% of you want Jim Leonhard to have the job. 27.7% of the voters out there. Lance Leipold, who Kansas got a victory, now jumping into the top 25. Former UW Whitewater head coach, remaining undefeated with the Jayhawks. He got 27.7% of the vote. 9.2% saying other, but nobody tweeted at me who those other coaches would be. You got Dave Aranda and Baylor. Would he come back to Wisconsin? I don't know. But easily, no big surprise, majority with Jimmy Leonhard. I was kind of curious to see if it would be closer with how Kansas is playing this year under Lance, but no, so far the overwhelming majority with Jimmy Leonhard. So, do you like the move? Do you not like the move? Your thoughts, hit me up. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into the opening drive. We're going to talk a lot of football here this morning. We've got, and plus Justice Cleveland. He'll be joining us too, recapping some local stuff from over the weekend, Friday night. Blue Gold football. UW Stout just dominated that game against UW Eau Claire for the War on 94, but it was pretty one-sided there with UW Stout. So, but Justice will hop on and break down the local stuff for us coming up in the next hour or so. So let's get it going here this morning. Opening drive. Let's talk a lot of football. We'll throw some Badgers in. Obviously, we're going to hear what Chris McIntosh and Jimmy Leonard had to say late last night in their presser. Also, Packers, who get some game balls for you? You got to pass out a game ball. Who are you going to give it to? Or if you got a few of them to hand out, hit me up with some texts, tweets, Facebook, all that good stuff. All right, let's get into it because we got a lot to talk about. So, first break, opening drive coming up after these quick words. Eventful day yesterday, eventful night maybe yesterday in the Wisconsin sports landscape. As you probably all already know, Badger football making a change in the head coaching position. Going to hear from Chris McIntosh, athletic director Chris McIntosh, and Jimmy Leonard here in a second. But Paul Chryst finishing with a 67-26 overall record at Wisconsin, 1 win shy from being second overall, and Brett Bielema was actually second overall. So kind of weird how things kind of transpire and connect dots, right? I mean, Paul Chryst last game as head coach is a loss against Brett Bielema, and now Brett Bielema will, right now at least, stay second in the all-time wins list for Wisconsin, and Paul Chryst right now third, just 1 game back. He won 10 games or more in 4 of his first 5 seasons with the Badgers, won a Cotton Bowl, an Orange Bowl, 3 Big Ten West Division titles. But you look at the last couple of years here, and you can kind of see a little bit of a maybe falling down period, right? 2020, they went 4-3 before a slow start to the 2021 season, which they finished 9-4. Braylon Allen, as we mentioned, had tweeted out after the news, anyone who wanted Coach Chryst gone isn't a part of this team. I'm surprised that they actually did it. I'm surprised they actually pulled the trigger and made this move. I really kind of thought that they were going to finish out this year and then maybe kind of reassess to where everything was at. But at the same time, maybe it's also, if they really want to see Jimmy Leonard and maybe get him some reps as a head coach and then kind of, go into next year, assuming he is going to get the job with a little bit of experience under his belt. I don't know, but not many. Let's be real here. Not many coaches do get let go with a record like what Paul Chryst had. Let's be real here. Okay. Put all the personal stuff set aside. Not a lot of coaches do get let go with an overall record like what Paul Chryst has. So, but what are your thoughts on the move? I'll get to your thoughts here in just a few minutes because let's hear from athletic director Chris McIntosh and interim head coach Jimmy Leonard from their presser last night, audio courtesy from UW Badgers.
It goes without saying, today is an incredibly tough day for our program, specifically for the players on this team. Going forward, our priority is to support them both immediately and as the season unfolds. I had to make an incredibly difficult decision today for a change in leadership of our football program. Couldn't have more respect for Coach Chryst, for who he is, for what he stands for his commitment to this place. First and foremost, to our student athletes, to our players. Nobody has their best interests at heart or cares about them like Coach Chryst. And so just couldn't say anything better about Coach Chryst right now. I'm tasked with making difficult decisions about the future and of the direction of this program. And I felt at this point in time that a change was needed. I met with Coach Chryst this morning. We had a long meeting. We talked about it, and we agreed to move on with this change and this decision. Fortunate to have Coach Leonard here on our staff, confident that he can lead this team through the balance of this season. That's our priority right now. Our priority is make sure that these kids get the most out of this season and out of their experience at Wisconsin. So I'm comforted by the fact that Jimmy's on staff, and I'm confident that he'll do a great job. Again, I can't discredit the amount of people this affects, specifically Coach Chryst and his family, our current players, the staff around this. It's a big decision, and it's got implications that are not lost on me. But really, really thankful to have been able to work side by side with Coach Christ through some incredibly exhilarating, positive moments and some tough ones like today. And so we'll push forward, and we'll push forward this season under Coach Leonard's leadership, and our focus will be on making the most of this season for our team. Thanks.
Obviously, a very emotional day for myself and our staff and our players. We have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Christ and everything he's done for this program. And his family and this program mean everything to him. And I think it's our duty, my duty as a coach, and to get our staff and players to rally, behind him and really fulfill everything that he had envisioned for this team, which we still think is out there. And it's unfortunate, myself, I had a long relationship with Coach Christ as a player, mentoring me, as I got into coaching. This man hired me with zero coaching experience and named me his coordinator a year later. So very emotional day for myself. And with that being said, it's, a dream for myself coming out of that nightmare. And I want to respect him and his family in all ways. And this place means a ton to myself. And it means so much to everyone who's committed to be here with the athletic department, the players, the faculty, the coaching staff. And we want more, we want better. And that's my goal, is to try to help get us in that direction in a unique time. And I'm up to that task, and I'm excited for that journey that we're about to go on. But definitely a very emotional day for all of us involved.
All right, so that's just some opening remarks from Badger Athletic Director Chris McIntosh and new interim head coach Jimmy Leonard. Audio courtesy again from the Wisconsin Badgers there. But were you at all surprised by the move? Were you surprised that at this point in time that they actually were? I mean, like, they actually did it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like when Mike McCarthy was let go. And maybe you could draw some parallels to where the downward trend between Paul Christ and Mike McCarthy in terms of, what was the knock on Mike McCarthy, maybe not adapting to the times or to the current style of the game. You know what I mean? That was a big thing from a lot of fans out there. And I think from a lot of Badger fans out there too, it was kind of the same thing with Paul Christ. I mean, you can kind of connect some parallels to this whole thing here. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I'll admit it. I mean, I was surprised that they actually did it in season. I really was. I thought, after a week or two ago when Chris McIntosh, was out there, was in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Kind of, there was the article about he's taken the Barry Alvarez type of approach, see how coaches can kind of coach out of adversity and situations like that. But then, boom, moved on. And this was after Paul Christ got an extension in the offseason. And there is reported a huge buyout. It was like $16.4 million. But Chris McIntosh did say yesterday in that presser too that they did. He wouldn't say the number, but they did come to an agreement on a different buyout number that he said was significantly less. Didn't say what that number was, but it is lesser than what that 16.4, whatever it is, that's being reported out there. So, yeah, I was surprised that they actually made the move at this point in time. If they don't have a guy like Jimmy Leonard on staff, are they making that move? Probably not. I don't think. And maybe this is an opportunity for McIntosh and for Jimmy Leonard to, for McIntosh to evaluate Jimmy Leonard, but also for Jimmy Leonard to get some reps underneath him as a head coach. And if the plan is for him to be the head coach, which I think we all agree is probably going to happen unless something is just way off here. But, this is an opportunity for him to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 regular season games of coaching experience under his belt. We'll see if they can, get a bowl game or something like this at this point. But this is an evaluation period for Chris McIntosh, and this is a period for Jim Leonard to gain experience, and maybe that had a lot to do with factoring into this decision as well. But I know there was quite a few Badger fans that wanted this move. They wanted this move to happen. But this, we have to also remember too, this is somebody's job. This is somebody's livelihood. Not only affects him, but affects the family. Talking about Paul Chryst here. I mean, there's nobody in this world right now that feels more awful than what Paul Chryst is. I mean, Paul Chryst is a Badger. He played there. He grew up in the area. I got to imagine his dream job too. And to be let go from his dream job, that's got to sting, you guys, right? That's got to hurt. That's got to hurt. So I don't want to pile on too much on Paul Chryst and the move, but I think one thing too that this kind of signifies to me is, last couple years we've talked about expectations when it comes to this Badger football team, or this Badger football program, I should say. What are the expectations? Is it just to compete for Big Ten West titles, and we'll see, get to the Big Ten championship and, see what happens, or get to, a decent bowl game? Or is the expectation to take the next step and compete for college football playoff spots and perhaps even compete for a national championship? Should those be the expectations for the Badger football team? McIntosh kind of alluded to it a little bit yesterday in his presser, but he said the expectation, the goal is always to bring championships. But to me, this almost kind of signifies, and I could be reading too much into it, but it almost kind of signifies is like, all right, we are ready to take this next step, or we want to take this next step to, compete for a playoff, compete with the big boys for national championships, or to get up there, or at least to have a shot at it. So that to me was something I took away from a move like this being done at this point. Because as I mentioned, you look at Paul Chryst's record, not many coaches get let go with a record like that. There really isn't. Let's be real here. Facts are facts. But what this also tells me too is that, again, in my opinion, that Wisconsin wants to take that next step, or Chris McIntosh has some big-time goals and expectations for this football program in the next few years, that he wants to see this football program take that next step and try to compete for some national championships, try to compete for some college football playoff spots, wants to be in that conversation, doesn't just want to be a Big Ten West favorite and then get to a good bowl game. No, he wants to take that next step. And I think if you are a Badgers fan, you've got to be excited about that potential, right? You've got to be excited about somebody or a program wanting now to take that next step, or at least trying to. Now, the question is going to be, is Jim Leonard the guy that can do it? Is he the guy that can take this program up another notch? A lot of people think he can be. The real answer is we don't know yet. We have no idea. But I guarantee you there is a ton of Badger fans and people even just in the state who are probably not the biggest Badger fans, or they just kind of casually pay attention to them. And they're like, Jim Leonard's coach? Oh, yeah. Might even draw a little bit more, paying attention to that too. But I guarantee you too, Jim Leonard, there's nobody that's going to work harder to try to turn around this program or not, take this program to the next step than Jim Leonard. And the thing is too is like, Paul Chryst was a Badger guy too. We all know that, right? Played quarterback in that, but Jim Leonard is just kind of different. The story, the walk-on, right? The walk-on from up north of here, grew up in a state, made a name for himself, walk on at Wisconsin, undrafted in the NFL, made a name for himself in the NFL, comes back to Wisconsin. I mean, that's a Hollywood story. And the perfect Hollywood ending to this story would be taking his college football program up another step, up another notch, and being a consistent threat for a national championship. It might be lofty goals. It might be really big goals, but I get the sense that's what they want to do with this program, that's what they envision with this program. As we mentioned, I put up an early Twitter poll late last night on where people thought, or where Badger fans, who they wanted to be the new head coach. And no big surprise, the clear majority is Jim Leonhard at 63.6%. I think, honestly, it probably would have been at least in the 70s, maybe even approaching the 80s, if Lance Leipold wasn't having a great season at Kansas this year. I mean, if it was just so average, his name's probably not mentioned as much. But the fact that Kansas is having a tremendous year and now cracking the top 25 and they're undefeated, yeah, his name is being thrown out there. The thing is, too, he's actually older by a couple years, older than Paul Chryst. Now, I'm not saying that should matter in those decisions at any point, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I don't think a lot of people realize that, he isn't a Jimmy Leonhard, young, kind of almost kid. Jim Leonhard's going to turn 40 at the end of this month. Still young, but and maybe that's an advantage too, that he can maybe relate a little bit more. I don't know. A lot of factors into it. But the poll updates, 63.6% in favor of Leonhard, 27.3% Lance, 9.1% saying other, but nobody has said who the other person is that they would like to see. So, a couple questions I'm throwing out to you. 1, are you surprised that they actually made the move? 2, are you in favor of the move? I'm really curious to hear from the people who are not in favor of the move. I want to know if, and please let me know with a text, 715-830-1912, if you don't like this move. And I think Chris McIntosh hit it on the head. This is a big move. Because, again, not many programs move on from coaches with records like that. You can see a little bit of a downward trend, but still, the overall records, not many programs will move on from a coach with that type of record. So is this a risky move? Is it a risk, but with potential high rewards? Yeah, I think you could say that. But I also think that kind of goes back to the notion that, all right, they've got maybe some lofty goals here. And they want to take it up another step. And they don't know if they can do that with Paul Chryst as head coach, but they feel like they maybe can do that with a guy like Jimmy Leonhard. So hit me up with those texts, 715-830-1912. Yeah, not too often after a victory Monday, but in a game that had us on pins and needles, does another, sport in Wisconsin supersede the Packers here. But Packers escaping with a victory. I think that's the best way to describe it. Escaping with a victory yesterday against the Patriots. And the third-string quarterback for the Patriots, third-string rookie quarterback for the Patriots, that was making things uncomfortable for many Packers fans and the Packers out there too. But Bailey Zappa, 10 of 15, 99 yards. Not a whole lot there, right? But running game, it was going for New England. Harris, 18 carries, 86 yards. Stevenson, 14 carries, 66 yards. Overall, Patriots ran the ball for 167 yards. But the Packers ran the ball for 199, $1.99. Aaron Jones over 100 yards, 16 carries, 110. I think that was a frustrating point for a lot of Packers fans yesterday, especially in that first half, which was just awful offensively. It was ugly in the passing game. It's like, just keep giving it to Aaron Jones, for crying out loud. I mean, A.J. Dillon, 17 carries, 73 yards. Allen Lazard did finish the game with 6 catches for over 100 yards, 6 catches, 116. Romeo Doubs with another touchdown catch. Let's give credit to where credit's due. That was a sweet back shoulder throw to a rookie and a great adjustment by Romeo Doubs. The thing is, too, is that guy, Romeo, he's kind of shown maybe some ball security issues. You had the fumble earlier, but then the drop in the end zone. Go back to the preseason, another game in the regular season, too. It's like, gotta hold on to that ball, right? Gotta hold on to that football. Cobby with a couple of big catches. Good to see Bobby Tunyon with a seam catch touchdown and securing the catch with the big hit. Christian Watson getting his first touchdown on a run. Obviously, this was not a pretty football game. This was, whew. I mean, we were sitting there. I was sitting there. We're gonna lose this game. We're gonna lose this game. I mean, it looked like Matt Patricia calling offensive plays was having his way with Joe Barry a few times there too. It's like, are we gonna lose this? And even Aaron Rodgers said after the game too, he's like, we can't lose this this game with a third string quarterback. Oh. So they escape with an overtime victory. Adrian Amos left the game early, and maybe that was a big reason why the Packers were kind of struggling in the run defense. I mean, they were coming off of a game against Tampa Bay with Leonard Fournette doing a good job of slowing him down and stopping that run. And then you come into this one, and they struggle with the run defense. But Adrian Amos leaving the game early, concussion. He did tweet that he's good. Don't know if that means he's going to be able to go for their game in London against the Giants. But I mean, there's still some stuff we can take away from this game. David Bakhtiari playing the whole game, coming through. How about that? Good to see 69 out there playing a full game. Apparently the plan was to have him start off with a couple of series in a row. Then Yash was going to come in, but Yash was added to the injury report on Saturday with an illness. Now, he was active in that, but that kind of changed everything they said. Rashaan Gary having his way over there at outside linebacker. So, I mean, we've got players we can hand some game balls to, right? We got some players we can hand some game balls to. So who you hand some game balls to, I'll make some of my picks, but we got to take a quick break. Okay, so we got to take a quick break. We got a lot going on here. I haven't even checked the texting line yet, but I'm sure we've got quite a few on there. So let's keep it to the text. Okay, so hit us up with some texts. 715-830-1912. Badgers chat, Packers chat. We haven't even gotten to the Brewers yet, but holy moly, what a weekend. We'll be back after these quick words. think we have a haunted studio because if you're hearing that Luke talking in there, we've got buttons being pushed in the studio and nobody's pushing them. So I think we've got a little bit of a haunted studio here. Trying to get the texting line to open up. The computer's not loading for me. Let me try again here quick because finally. All right, finally it's loaded up now. All right. We got Surveyor, Morning DK and fellow junkies. This is to Paul Chris. Thank you for the years of success, but it was time to move on. The past 3 years, you have slid into mediocrity, causing you to become a laughingstock in the college football world. Ooh, Surveyor. Mike McCarthy'd it, letting your previous success, which wasn't much. Wow, Surveyor coming after Paul Chris. Try to talk for you, but thank you for the fun times, the cotton and the Orange Bowl victories mostly. Now, Wisconsin should do a full search. I would love Lance, Jimmy Leonard, or Wake Forest's head coach Dave Clawson. Drew from Eau Claire. I'm surprised they did it this early in the season. Like you said, it's not just his record that's got him in trouble. I think it's more along the lines of the fact that we are losing games to teams we shouldn't be losing to. Fans and alumni don't want to shell out money every weekend to support a program that gets slapped around by mid-grade teams. At some point, they had to tell Chris to either start doing something different or it's your butt on the block. I'm hopeful this is the change we need to be truly competitive program going into the future. Living Dream Jeff, Morning Decade. Dan, I'm not surprised that Paul's let go. Getting beat by Ohio State is kind of expected, but not Indiana. Do you mean Illinois instead of Indiana, Jeff? I understand Jimmy is a fan favorite, but Lance has built football programs at every level of college football. Appears to be doing it again at Kansas, so I would go with Lance. We'll get to a couple more of these because they're Packers related a little bit later on. I'm not surprised the Badgers took on the personality of the coach. Boring and predictable and blah. Are you surprised at this point in time, like in the not even halfway through the season? Not even halfway through the season. I'm not surprised that they were going to make a move, but I am surprised that they actually did it 1, 2, 3, 4, just 5 games into the season. That to me is a little bit surprised there that they actually did do it during the season. So, and a lot of the other people who cover this Badger team kind of saying the same thing. Kind of saying the same thing out there. But one good little nugget here too. Paul Chryst was allowed to talk to his team and tell the players last night that he was out. So he was able to kind of say his goodbyes and that sort of thing too. But, it was kind of interesting wording too from Chris McIntosh, I thought yesterday, where he said that they had a long meeting and they kind of came to this conclusion. So, I mean, we'll never know the full details, but to kind of be a fly in that room, to kind of hear some of the conversations, what was being talked about, what was kind of being thrown back and forth a little bit there. But, because remember when Mike McCarthy was let go, they had to bring him back a couple days later for him to have an opportunity to say bye to his team and his players and that too. So, but all right. So Nebraska and Wisconsin will now have head coach openings heading into this offseason. But quick turnaround, Jim Leonard, by the way, also he wasn't sure if he was going to be calling plays or not for the defense. He was asked that yesterday, and he said, it's kind of been a whirlwind right now. But he said he would obviously have to make that decision coming up this week. But a lot of stuff going on, obviously, yesterday, and the Badgers have to travel to Northwestern, where they seem like they've struggled with Northwestern over the years quite a bit, and then at Michigan State, going up against another former Badger player, Mel Tucker there. Then the Badgers return home to Camp Randall for homecoming against Purdue. Purdue with a big win over Minnesota this past weekend on the 22nd. So your reactions can keep them coming with a text 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Again, let's just keep it to the text here because we've got a lot to get to, and I can see more texts are popping in here. So let's keep them to the text right now because I know you guys have a lot to say at this point. But back to the Packers here just a little bit too as we close out this first hour. If you had to hand out some game balls, who would you be handing some game balls out to? I know, we've got a lot to dissect with this game too, but if I were to hand out some game balls, I mean, Aaron Jones, for one, 16 carries, 110 yards. I mean, the guy just looks explosive coming out of the backfield. I know we talked about that. Was it the Chicago game? But I mean, the guy just looks quicker. I know I mentioned that earlier in the season, but he just looks quicker coming out of the backfield with that football. Give a game ball to Aaron Jones. Give a game ball to Allen Lazard. Big time catch on the sideline there for that third down conversion. 6 catches, $116. Rashaan Gary. I think anybody who criticized that pick a few years ago needs to write an apology letter to Rashaan Gary and maybe even Goody. But right now, Rashaan Gary has 5 sacks on the year, tied for the second most in the league. And he was just kind of a wrecking ball yesterday, kind of all over the field. So Rashaan Gary definitely gets a game ball from me too. Some other, if you want to, you could go A.J. Dillon for some tough carries, 17 carries for 73 yards. Had a couple people saying A.J. Dillon in the text, but the majority of texters going with Aaron Jones, going with Allen Lazard on there too. Those are probably the big ones. Got a couple in there for Rashaan Gary. I'd give one to Bach. I mean, you think about it, this is his first game at Lambeau since the ACL injury. Because when he did try to come back, remember it was with Detroit last year for a little bit. Then this year made his return in Tampa Bay. So this was Bach's first game back at Lambeau since the injury. And dude played pretty much the whole game. Last week was all on a rotation basis. It sounded like it was going to be kind of a rotation basis with Yash again. But with Yash having an illness, according to the injury report, Bakhtiari was thrown in there to play more snaps. This was some of the comments from Bakhtiari after the game. Said the initial plan was for him to play 2 consecutive drives and hand one to Yash. Yash's illness and Bakhtiari's knee holding up scratched that. Bakhtiari was tired but thrilled after, according to Ryan Wood. It's special to come back out here on Lambeau Field. It was clear David Bakhtiari's first snaps at Lambeau since 2020 meant a lot to him, Ryan Wood said. I'm just grateful. It's been a long, long journey for me, so I'm just grateful to be back out there. All I asked for was the ability to compete again. I'm thankful to have that opportunity. According to Ryan Wood, though, Bakhtiari was blunt on his play early in his return. I have extremely high standards for myself, so personally, for me, I don't like where I'm at. I need to be better. But number one thing is I want to make sure I can protect myself and protect my teammates. I'm at that threshold. So I'll give a game ball to David Bakhtiari too. Absolutely. Anybody else? Do you want to give one to Randall Cobb? I know on the telecast, was it Tony Romo was kind of talking about Randall Cobb. Like, guy looks faster. Guy looks, like he's young out there. A.J. Dillon kind of echoed those same sentiments after the game, saying when we need a big play, he's time and time again making them. Nobody really cares about his age. He keeps getting it done, and he can still move. I think he's, 23, 24? So, another player. Kind of talking about Randall Cobb there. But I think the big thing with this game, or one of the big things with this game, was like that first half offensive performance was, what the hell were we watching? I mean, it just felt like, okay, Aaron Jones was having success running the football. Yet passing game was just trying to take some shots downfield. You started off with a good pass to Allen Lazard in the first play. Then the quick throw to Romeo Dobbs, a little low out there. He secures it, but then fumbles it from a hit. First half offense was like, ugh. What are we watching here? Then it was kind of the question, which offense has been worse so far? That Packers offense in the first half, the Brewers offense, or the Badgers offense, for crying out loud? But second half, they got it going. Worked it out. Was able to move the ball, but Packers defense, run defense, a little inconsistent in the first few games of the season so far, wouldn't you say? Highs and lows. And it's not going to get any easier with Saquon Barkley in London this coming weekend. Just saw that in case anybody's wondering, Daniel Jones. So Giants, there looked like they were running out of quarterbacks yesterday too, but Ian Rappaport saying Daniel Jones is day-to-day. Tests will continue, but there is some optimism that he does play. So Saquon Barkley won't have to play quarterback like he did a little bit yesterday with the Wildcat nap. But Saquon Barkley, he had himself a good game yesterday too. So can the Packers defense rise to the challenge of slowing down Saquon Barkley? He had 146 yards on the ground yesterday, 31 carries for 146 yards. Not going to get any easier. And the Giants are going to want to be able to establish the run, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, have those long, sustained drives. But we'll have plenty of time to discuss that game later on in the week. One in, two more to go, plenty more to get to. Hit us up with some more texts, all right? 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We'll be back after these quick words. All right, second hour kicking off on this Monday morning. Appreciate you all tuning in. However, wherever you may be tuning in on this October 3rd, we'll get back to some more of your texts coming up in just a little bit because, well, a lot of you got something to say, whether it's about the Badgers or the Packers, maybe even a little bit about the Brewers, or maybe you've already checked out on the Brewers. One person who doesn't check out of anything is Mr. JC in the EC, Justice Cleveland. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. What a boring weekend.
There's nothing to talk about, man.
Jeez, just calm and no waves being made in the sports world. Just
Nothing.
a nice, relaxing weekend. We were all zen.
Right? Exactly. It was good to not have any drama, for crying out loud.
Right,
So,
exactly. No.
we're gonna get JC's thoughts on everything coming up here. But Justice, I gotta start off with some local stuff. That Chi-Hi River Falls ending to that football game Friday night. I mean, I know your partner in crime, JD, was over there, but in case anybody who doesn't know, Chi-Hi was lining up for a game-winning field goal. It was blocked, but they pick it up, scoop it up, and run it in for a touchdown for a victory. That's a crazy ending to a high school football game.
Oh, I couldn't believe it when I saw it too. And the fact that JD was able to stay there, because we were getting pretty close to, pressing it for the 10 o'clock show. It's after 9:30, and he stayed, got it, and it was really one of the craziest endings you'll see. For my generation, you think of the Leon Lett play,
Yeah.
the Cowboys, when he did that. Because I don't know the exact prep rule, but I believe if they let that ball just go after it's blocked, it's a dead ball.
Okay.
That, don't quote me. I mean, there's probably, if there's any officials out there who want to, correct me on this, but I believe if you block a field goal but you don't touch it, isn't that a dead ball? But then again, there's a Chester Markle play.
Oh, yeah.
From the Packers. Remember that one where he scooped it up against the Bears and ran it in for a score. So who knows?
Right.
But either way, the craziest ending. The fact that you give the credit to the lineman for being able to flip the ball out there and for Chi-Hi to score. That's what those are the kind of moments you live for with prep football, and a huge, huge win for Chippewa Falls.
Yeah, because River Falls was undefeated, weren't they?
Right. Yeah, and Chi-Hi was down 14-0 at the half.
Man.
And then to come back and get that win and to shut them out in the second half, not shut them out, but excuse me. Yeah. They shut them out 14-14. Yeah.
Yeah.
That to me is just one heck of a victory. And I mean, Reiko's seen it all.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's seen anything as crazy as that. So again, those are the moments we live for.
Yeah. So I mean, that obviously was a big highlight from Friday night. What did anything else kind of stand out to you from the games on Friday night?
Just how Regis showing just how really, really good they are with their performance over Mondovi. Mondovi's are really good as well, but Regis jumped out to a big lead and held on to it there. So showing that they are, right now the class of that conference, and haven't wrapped up the conference because there's still games to be. But that was a big statement win for them. And we were all talking after, I think they won 14-7 over Prescott early in the season. It's like, oh, what's going on here? But oh my goodness, since that moment, those must have been those opening night jitters, because after that they've come back to really show how great of a team they are. So yeah, I think that to me is just that shows you, especially now that Xander Rocco is back too, not discounting everybody else on the team, because Carson Tate had like 12 90-yard touchdowns in that game, it felt like. So I mean, you add that combination, the Rock and the Tate there, it's pretty good. So yeah, it's a fun team to see out there playing. So yeah, I think that. And then we had the Heart of the North, the top two teams in that too, and Northwestern, that team, I know it's a little fringe for us listening wise, but another team that's got a good chance of getting to state too, since they took down Cumberland. So
they blanked them, didn't they? It was like 50-something to nothing, or
that's just another powerhouse performance there too. So it was a good weekend of football, and we're just 2 weeks left here.
Yeah,
in the regular season.
Holy cow! And so now with River Falls losing, is the BRC a little bit more up for grabs with these final 2 weeks?
Hudson now definitely has a chance there, and Hudson's got Superior. Superior got their first win against Memorial, so Memorial's, it's gonna be a tough push here to try to make the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna be able to do it because now they're 1-4 in conference.
Okay,
to get that winning record in conference, I don't think they can do it. So that hurts them a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be between them, Hudson, and it comes down to Hudson and River Falls.
Yeah.
So if anything, I believe they already played too, and it was River Falls getting the win. So yeah, well, it would have been because River Falls was undefeated. So
Right.
Hudson can, they can maintain pace. They would probably end up being co-conference champions.
Gotcha. Okay. So and then I know this was last week for you, but are we getting close to state golf? Because I know you were covering some of it last week.
Yes. The sectionals are this week. So tomorrow, the D1 sectional, that's at Troy Burn in Hudson. Yeah, a beautiful course there. So that then the D2 is up near Duluth, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, I was out there, got a chance to cover both the regionals. So a good performance, big one for Chippewa Falls McDonald team to be able to get. I believe they got second in that car, second or third in their regional to advance as a team. So just team growth there. And then on the other side there, you have some young golfers on the D2 side that are Bella Kongshaw from Elk Mound as a freshman, made it on as an individual as well. So in that Regis Altoona team has been playing well as well. So yeah, it's fun, and we'll see what happens this week. See who gets to go to state next week at University Ridge. I believe it is there for girls.
Okay.
I should know stuff off the top of my head, but things have been changing so much the last 2 years. I believe the girls is still there. I know the boys, it's been, with the AmFam.
Right.
But they're off moving around. So yeah, that next Monday and Tuesday will be state girls.
Nice. Wow. And then volleyball's got to be getting close to that too, I have to imagine.
Volleyball, yeah, because we're about a month away from the state tournament for them. So they're wrapping up the regular season. You got Chippewa Falls team ranked high in the state. I think they were 30-2 or 30-1 the last time I checked. So they are a powerhouse program there, and just a bunch of good teams. The Clover Belt has been a fun one to watch with Bloomer, Stanley Boyd, and McDonald. All, they've been state ranked and all kind of beating up on each other. So that one is going to be fun to see who ends up taking that Clover Belt title.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Blue Gold side of things, Stout's pretty good, huh, Justice? At least, offensively. I mean, a couple weeks in a row now, 60, 70 points in the last couple weeks. So yeah, Stout's pretty good, and they showcase that against the Blue Golds on Saturday.
Yeah, I know, kind of how we talked about Regis had their first game. I think Stout, being a veteran-laden team, especially Sean Borgerding at quarterback, you've seen that, after kind of a stumble out of the gate, they've really come back here. That offense is just clicking.
Yeah.
When you can do what they did, and, Borgerding going 17 of 28 for 5 touchdowns, that's an amazing performance. So, yeah, kudos, and you got to, tip your hat to Stout for that. And, that's a tough loss for the Blue Golds, but you don't have time to even look back at it too much because you got Whitewater coming in for homecoming this week. So, it's going to be one of those things where you got to turn the page quickly and hope that the guys use this game as motivation, because it should be one of those games that's, you've got to turn the corner and make something happen here this week.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, I mean, the men's soccer team, Justice, I know you've talked about them quite a bit, this soccer program, but they remain undefeated. They got a couple more games this week, Augsburg on Tuesday, St. Olaf on Thursday. But last Wednesday, 5-0 victory against Lawrence University. I mean, they're just humming for the second year of this program too. Is that right? Yeah. Just 2 years?
Yeah. So for them to the most goals they've allowed all season is 2.
Man.
So, with all the scoring, it's been just stellar defense on their side as well. And that was the first game of the year. So that was against Hamlin. Since then, the closest anybody has gotten is 1 goal to them. So, yeah, they're a fun team to watch. They are so meticulous and crisp out there on the field with the running of their sets and stuff like that. I'm trying to talk like I know a whole lot about soccer. But I'm just saying, when you watch them, you can see why they're successful. You really can. And yeah, so they got Augsburg, St. Olaf, and then for this week, and then yeah, I mean, they're almost getting down to the nitty gritty here in the regular season. Obviously, they don't have a conference tournament to play in, so it's going to be again. I mean, you got to look at this if you're the NCAA Division III. The team's undefeated. There's a reason they're undefeated. So I think they're making noise and got into the top 25. So bodes well for them getting into the postseason as well.
And I know volleyball, they've got another war on 94 with UW Stout coming up on Wednesday too. So.
Yeah, and they had a huge win this week over Northwestern, third-ranked team in the country. So you had a battle of obviously the defending national champions against the third-ranked team, and the Blue Golds in 5 sets were able to pull off that win. So that tells you just where this team is at again, and a chance that they're the cream of the crop of NCAA Division III volleyball. So what a fun one it'll be. And, again, you get those I-94 rivalry games, and this is it's a great atmosphere. So yeah, I expect the McPhee to be rocking on Wednesday.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Justice, breaking it down for us here on the local side of things. Now, since we're on college, I've got to ask you. I mean, Wisconsin, they hadn't fired a football coach since 1989, and well, they did that yesterday with Paul Chryst, who has a 720 winning percentage. Were you surprised that they actually made the move mid-season, or at least during the season, Justice?
I really am, because yeah, like you said, this isn't something that happens at Wisconsin. It's usually, I mean, you think about the last couple coaches that have left, they left on their own. Gary Anderson and Brett Bielema, and obviously Barry Alvarez retired. So it's been, like you said, a coaching change 33 years since the last coaching change like this. So yeah, it was a stunner, especially the timing of it coming out right at the end of the Packer game too. But you've got to imagine that loss to Illinois was just too much for, I think, not just, and I don't know if it's Chris McIntosh, and it probably was, but also the boosters always kind of have a say in this stuff.
That's what I was kind of wondering too.
And I think losing to Brett Bielema, not only to lose, but after losing to Ohio State, then coming out and basically just having no fire in a game against a guy whose whole goal in Brett Bielema was to get that win against Wisconsin. That I think that just was the final nail in the coffin, unfortunately, for Paul Chryst. And for me, I always hate seeing the guy who's the alma mater coaching his alma mater, because it's got to taint everything for Paul Chryst, who's been a Wisconsin guy pretty much through and through his whole life.
Right.
Obviously, he was over at Pitt coaching, but yeah, I mean, this is a guy who grew up a Badger, played as a Badger, and now, unfortunately, it ends badly like this, not on his own terms, but now you got to see what Jim Leonard can do. And there's a reason, they've held on to Jim Leonard. And I think this was probably, one of the reasons. They want to see what they can have with Jim Leonard. And if he comes out and does what he, can get this team turned around this season, because it's not too late to do something with this team. We're still relatively early in the season here. So if he comes out and can kind of run, maybe close to running the table there in conference, because obviously the West is not the best this year when it comes to the Big Ten. So yeah, you hate seeing it, you really do, but it unfortunately, I think those last 2 games just showed the team wasn't making progress. The team wasn't growing anymore, and that's, to me, that's probably the main reason you're seeing this team kind of not progress, but going the opposite way. And I think you don't want guys starting to give up on the season. So I think there's maybe a light a new fire around some of these guys, but unfortunate for Paul Chryst.
Right. I have to, so there was, this is me going down the deep, dark webs of Twitter and social media, which could, be scary a lot of the times there, Justice, as you would know. But there's some talk now is Wisconsin, or at least they're throwing a comparison out to Bo Pelini in Nebraska. So like when Nebraska let Bo Pelini go, he was 67-27 with a 713 win percentage. And well, Nebraska would take that right now in a heartbeat, right? They would take that in a heartbeat. So there's people questioning, could this be a Wisconsin, type of thing now? Like, it's not always greener, or the grass isn't always greener when you move on from a coach who numbers wise has had some success. You're looking at that, but I would say, well, they got a guy in Jimmy Leonard though too that they obviously see a lot, and his stock is really high at this point. But there's some people out there throwing out the comparison: could Wisconsin be the next Nebraska for this? We don't know, and we won't know for the next few years. But now that's being thrown out there.
That's always in the back of your mind, is like, oh my gosh, it can be worse. And Nebraska's that big example of that. Yeah, Bo Pelini, we went a couple of weeks ago, I went back and looked at him, I'm like, oh my goodness, he actually didn't do that bad.
Yeah.
And Nebraska, as much as people gave Bo Pelini, a lot of guff for his time there, they really weren't that bad when he was there. And then Scott Frost comes in. Now, obviously there was, coaches in between there, but Yeah, and this Frost was kind of the same situation where, you have a guy come in who's alumni and now that ended badly. So I hope with Jim Leonard that I think they see so much into him. Obviously, he's been wanted by not just college teams, but pro teams as well. So they know that he's a hot commodity. So this is his chance.
Mhm.
And I think they'll give him every chance to keep that job. And I think that for me, that makes this transition a little better, is that you got a Wisconsin guy coming in for another Wisconsin guy. And there's probably people out there who don't want a Wisconsin guy. You know what I mean? They want to go outside. Let's shake things up or everything like that. But Jim Leonard has proven to be a good coach, a great assistant coach. Now it's his chance to prove it that he can be a good head coach. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But if he can get a fire lit under this team and things change, yeah, I think he's got to be the number one candidate in my mind. Even obviously he's the interim, so you have some faith in him. So I think he's the number one, and this is kind of just a little trial run. So if he can keep this team under control and get them somewhere, back over 500, if not better than, a couple games over 500, that would be a good sign that he has something special.
Mm-hmm. There's a few things are running through my mind right here now too. Is like, wow, this is almost a little bit different because the guy wasn't fired, but it's almost a Greg Gard situation again. Where Bo Ryan called it a career. They handed over to Greg Gard, interim head coach. He has a chance to coach his way into winning the job, and he did that. And I get it; it's a little bit different here, but still kind of weird to kind of think about that. But there's two things too that I don't know, just for me, Justice, that kind of stand out in this whole thing is one with Jimmy Leonard. I mean, obviously, I think this gives Chris McIntosh a few games here to kind of assess and kind of put on his scouting cap to see what he sees with Jim Leonard and how the team reacts and how he coaches the team. But also, it kind of gives Jimmy Leonard a few games under his belt to if they do plan to make him the head coach. And I know McIntosh said yesterday that they're going to do a search for the coach because he believes the program deserves that. But it gives Jim Leonard like 7-ish games left to kind of get some coaching experience, and then maybe next year really hit the ground running. But the other part, Justice, is like, does this almost tell you that, all right, the Badgers, or at least Chris McIntosh, they've got loftier goals than just competing for Big Ten West championships and hopefully getting to the Big Ten championship or going to some good bowl games. They want to take that next step. And a move like this kind of does that kind of signify that they want to take that next step? We're talking college football playoffs and maybe some chance a national championship.
I think so. And I think this is a big message sent by McIntosh, not just around the football program, but to all the programs at Wisconsin, that he's not afraid to make a change mid-season if it comes down to it. And I think for Wisconsin, that doesn't happen. You don't really. I mean, obviously, you had the Bo Ryan and Greg Gard situation, but that was a completely different thing than what this was. So, yeah, I think this is a good shot of McIntosh saying, "Hey, we have a standard. You guys got to get to that standard." And I think that's the thing with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin was on the cusp there for a while of being a team that could compete for national titles. And unfortunately, they've slipped under that, in my mind. I think the last few years, the expectations they have not been reaching where they should be. And I don't, you can go with the various reasons why, but for them to lay an egg against Ohio State and then come back and just completely look uninspired against Illinois, I think that was where they're like, okay, this is not a team that is near that upper echelon right now. So it's time to make a change. So yeah, I think it's McIntosh saying, let's get there. Let's get higher. We have to be aiming higher than what we've been doing the last couple of years.
And I think that says something about McIntosh too, because he's a Barry Alvarez guy. Paul Chryst is a Barry Alvarez guy. But McIntosh, I mean, he could have just like, oh yeah, that's Barry's guy, so we're gonna stick with him and all that. He went a different direction than his mentor. You know what I mean? I think that's a big step for McIntosh too.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I really do. I think it's him showing that it's no longer Barry's not in control. It's Chris McIntosh's program now, and he put his stamp on it, a big stamp with this one. And the reason you can go back and looking at this Badger team and what has been the problem, I think a lot of it, the offense has just not developed with the rest of college football.
Yeah.
And you could, I don't know how much you want to shoulder it on Graham Mertz not turning into the Superman quarterback that everybody kind of thought he was coming in. But a lot of that Mertz might have the skills. I just don't think that offense is anything inspiring. And, you make the changes coming into this year that was supposed to revitalize the offense, and arguably they've gotten worse on offense this year than they were even last year. So I think that's got to be, if you're Chris McIntosh, you're sitting back and looking at it. I mean, this is a team that prides itself on running the ball. And when you get 2 total yards against Illinois, I mean, give them credit, they're 4-1 on the season, but this isn't a team that anybody was, expecting this kind of performance from Wisconsin against them.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really hurts. And then, Mertz, you have a guy who throws a touchdown, but also throws 2 interceptions, just hasn't ever since that first game where he came out. And that first game might've been the biggest detrimental thing to Graham Mertz, because those expectations not only got magnified, but just multiplied after he had his great first game. And since then, it's been just up and down performances, and I think a lot more down than up. So, yeah, there were problems, and you could see it. And I think it was McIntosh was just like, okay, we got to try something new to see if we can get things, right the ship and start getting back towards that upper echelon.
Right. I agree. All right, we got to take a quick break, and we got to chat some more green and golds. We got some Brewers. I mean, they only got 3 more games left, and they need a miracle. So start saying your prayers to the baseball gods out there if you want the Brewers to get there. So we still got lots to catch up on. We're going to take a really quick break, and more with Mr. Justice Cleveland after these quick words. Not too often do we get a Monday morning where another football team in the state of Wisconsin kind of supersedes the Packers, especially after what we witnessed yesterday, escaping with a overtime victory against the Patriots and a third-string quarterback. When we look at this game, though, Justice, were you there by chance, or no? You didn't make it.
I was not. No, okay. This was the living room game.
Which
is okay. That might have been a game to be watching in your living room.
Yeah, I totally I agree, man. I agree. Looking at this, though, I mean, first half offense, we might have had a discussion which offense is more poor, Packers offense, Badgers offense, or the Brewers offense right now, and you might have a pretty good debate going on right there. But able to bounce back in the second half. But when you kind of take a look at this game and kind of revisit it, what stands out to you about this team?
Boy, oh boy. I mean, that was you want to say a classic trap game? Kind of almost felt like it there. I mean, I feel like they were sleepwalking through that first half.
Yeah.
I think there was that whole, okay, well, Brian Hoyer's starting for them. So we got that. And then obviously that lasted for 2 drives?
Yeah.
And then you get the third string
One
quarterback.
drive, I think.
One drive. Yeah. I mean, I think you should, I don't feel like when you're playing a Bill Belichick team, you should expect it to be tough no matter who's out there. So, I mean, you can't go like that. It's just, they were not, there was no sync in that offense. I will give the running game credit.
Yeah.
The fact that they were still able to put up as almost 200 yards rushing when the passing game was doing nothing just tells you how good Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are. So, I mean, kudos to those two guys, because if they didn't have that running game going, it could have got ugly.
Yeah.
So they kept that going. That kept them really in the game. So they figured it out a little bit in the second half and got more rhythm. But yeah, the receiving, you could just tell there's, I mean, body language, Mr. Body Language, Aaron Rodgers, you can just see the frustration for, some of these guys just not being in the right place at the right time. So I think it just came down to they just weren't on the same page somehow. And I think Aaron Rodgers said it after the game, where they can't keep playing like this. This is not how you can sustain success when you're not really stacking too much success out on the field. So, yeah, it was a mess. I think the defense was out. The defense was out there a lot. And then, again, you're going against a third string quarterback, but some of the, and then some of this does fall on the defense, because there was times you're watching and you're like, what are they doing?
Stop the run, guys. Come on.
Stop the run. And then sometimes with the zone, just letting them have the middle of the field.
Yep.
Credit to New England. They came out there and played inspired football and almost pulled off a huge upset. But in the end, the win's the win. You don't apologize for wins, and we heard Matt LaFleur say that last week. So you can't apologize for this one as well. I think give a lot of credit to Matt LaFleur. I mean, he had a chess game there, especially in that second half against Bill Belichick. And as much as maybe he had more chess pieces, they still got the victory. So yeah, it was ugly, but winning ugly is still a win.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of taking a look at this too with the offense and the receivers, and it might just be because he's got no other options. Romeo Doubs, we've focused on his great plays and that, but he has shown some instances where ball security has been an issue a little bit, right? But I'll give Rodgers a little bit of credit too. Old Rodgers would have probably zoned him out, right? And kind of like, nope, you're in the doghouse. You got to learn to hold on to the football. Now, it could just be a little bit of like, I got nobody else to throw to, that sort of thing. But at least he's still looking in his direction and still targeting 87 out there.
Right. And I mean, we should that not catch at the end of the game too.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that you hate, because obviously the Packers have benefited from that call before.
Yep.
Des will tell you. Oh man, you can't even blame him for. I mean, it was a catch, and 10, 15 years ago, maybe it's a catch too.
Yeah.
So I think that even with that not going as a touchdown, that should give you hope that these guys can get separation and can do big things when needed. So yeah, I mean, again, Allen Lazard had a big game.
Yeah.
But Romeo's right there. And I think I wonder if we'll see more being leaned on Randall Cobb too, just because he knows where to be. My fear is like Cobb's going to end up being like how they kind of froze out Donald Driver at the end of his career. It's like, let him get out there. Obviously, maybe he doesn't have the speed he had 10 years ago, but he knows how to run the routes. So I'm okay if Cobb's out there a lot, because he's a good security blanket. Nice to see Robert Tunyon's kind of develop back, into that offense. They need to get that and, establish that tight end position a little bit more too.
Right.
So I want to go back, we're seeing Aaron Rodgers throwing off that back foot again. A lot of those passes, especially in the first half, were floated. And I don't know if it's, it kind of reminds me of, the way he was kind of throwing at the end of the Mike McCarthy era, where it just like, I know he knows his arm and he knows what he can do with his arms, but it seems like some of the mechanics lately are getting a little more sloppy.
Right.
So you'd like to see him not be just doing those back foot floating passes that, he missed his receivers a couple times too. Now maybe he's throwing it to the only place that he knows it's not going to get picked off. But yeah, I think, there's a little bit of Aaron Rodgers on this too. I think a lot of it still is the receivers, not quite having the chemistry. But yeah, you'd like to see Aaron Rodgers just kind of clean up the mechanics a little bit too, and start maybe getting a little more on those passes.
That's why, I mean, Tom Clements is supposed to be there too, is to help out with that, the fundamentals, right? I mean, that's what we heard. Jordan Love was making some improvement with his footwork, and a lot of the credit was for Tom Clements. Aaron, you might need to, listen to your old-time quarterback coach here a little bit too.
Right. And again, I'm not the guy who's going to break down complete mechanics and stuff like that. It just from the eyeball test, a lot of those passes, again, in the first half, just look like things where he's just kind of lofting them, just stepping back, throwing them up, where he's not really getting into his throw. So again, that's just me as a armchair quarterback coach, but it's something that's visible to me. It's got to be visible to somebody else too.
Right. Oh yeah, no doubt about it. So
that's how I always say it. If I can find it, there's somebody who's much more skilled at this that can pick that out too.
Rashaan Gary, I know we got to restart the Zoom here in a few minutes here, but I kind of made a joke, but maybe half serious too, because it was the draft that we had the draft party down here in the basement, and you made a quick stop before you went to go see Avengers. I remember that night.
That's true.
But
what was that, 15, 20 years ago? Because it feels like it.
No kidding. But everybody who kind of dissed that draft pick probably should write an apology letter to either Rashaan Gary or Gutekunst at this point, because he is looking like a full-time menace out there. And we got to give this guy credit too, because every single year it looks like he has gotten better and better and better. And now he's looking like one of the best pass rushers in this league.
You remember too, like after that first year, that's what he said. He's like, I got to go get better.
Yeah.
And he put in the work, and people still kind of doubted him coming into that next season, but holy cow, he is a beast out there. And you can see it starting to kind of get that national acknowledgement too, especially on the broadcast. They were talking about it. So I think, yeah, you're seeing the development of a guy who was very much doubted, and they used that as motivation. And a guy who, there was his college career wasn't the greatest college career. And then for him, so there was a lot of like, oh, this guy's always been, has never gotten to the expectations. Well, he's exceeding them now. He is playing like a first-round draft pick. He is a monster out there. You throw him and Clark out there, and those are two guys that are two of the best in the league. So with that Packers defense, you just want to see them all healthy.
Yeah.
Especially the defensive backfield has just been a struggle to keep guys healthy out there. We had Adrian Amos leave the game this week too, so it's they've been shuffling guys in and out there, which maybe down the line will end up helping that team, because a lot of these guys are getting experience that they probably wouldn't be getting. But yeah, I mean, you say again, like, you give up 24 points to a third string quarterback, but they were out on the field a lot. And Rashaan Gary, though, was he was a guy they had to account for on every play.
And it's not just, the one-trick pony of getting after the quarterback, but he just looks like he's in the backfield. He's involved in the running game too. I mean, he looks like the complete package over there.
Yeah, when you have a guy who's 6'5", 277, that could move like that,
yeah,
it is amazing. So, yeah, I think, apologies to Brian Gutekunst after that first year. I mean, I think there was a lot of people that had him written down as another, Packers defensive, flop in the first round, and he's been anything but. That's a 12th overall pick who is playing like a 12th overall pick now.
Yeah, no doubt. So, but do you want to see a convincing win really quick before we go to break? Is that something that is a big factor in everything? Like we got to see the Packers go out there and have these like win by 20, win by 28, win by 17, whatever it is. Do we need to see that from this team, or is that a little overrated?
I mean, you'd love to see it. And I mean, this next game is the London game, so it's hard to know what you're going to get in one of those games. It's going to be such a weird week for them.
Yeah.
Against a Giants team that can run the ball, and you have a quarterback who's mobile and Daniel Jones, so it's not going to be anything easy. The Jets game the next week would be one, but then you have the whole Robert Saleh, the kind of, we'll hear that storyline that whole week.
His brother's offensive coordinator for the Jets.
Right.
So,
yeah, so that'll be isn't going to be anything easy. And then, of course, the Commanders, So, there's games that could be won big. You'd like to see it, but I mean, I have no problem. You're getting the win. You're getting the win. That's the big thing. You just don't want to lose ugly.
Right.
That would be something right now that would probably set this team back a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. We got to restart the Zoom and all that good stuff because we got to finish up this hour, and we'll throw in some Brewers chat too. Just 3 more games left in the regular season for the Brewers, and they need help. A lot of help. If you want to pray to Joe Boo, Major League reference, anything like that, whatever you got to do if you want to see this Brewers team in the postseason, they need a lot of help. Brewers cannot take advantage of some of the gifts that they were given or even just do their own thing and win their own dang games. So we'll take a quick break. We'll throw in a little Brewers chat to finish up this second hour. Your thoughts, hit us up with some text, 715-830-1912. We'll get to those coming up in just a little bit. Studs and Duds, get your lists of studs and duds on over to us with a quick text or Facebook, Twitter. You can do that, or on the video stream too if you want to comment on there. We'll hit those up just past 8 o'clock this morning. But we finish up the second hour with Mr. Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire, WEAU 13 News. I mean, they're not out of it technically, but you need a lot of help. Brewers need to win out, and the Phillies need to get swept by the Astros coming up here. Brewers had their chances though, right, Justice? I mean, they had their chances. Phillies were doing their best, and Brewers just they couldn't get wins against the Marlins, for crying out loud. 4-3 losses these last 2. Yesterday was an extra innings. I mean, never say never, but it's going to take a lot for this team to try to get into the postseason this year. So disappointing.
Yeah, you can't win 1 of 4 against the Marlins and expect to have a chance to make it. I mean, they still do.
Yeah.
But that was about as bad of a performance as they could have, and just 2-3 really bad losses. You look down, and even the win wasn't a pretty win, a 1-0 win. But yeah, I mean, that's not the performance you need, especially at home. So let's see what they can do. I mean, you got Arizona, you have a chance, but yeah, you need the Phillies to really help you out there. And again, the Astros said they're going to play their starters, so at least you got that going on
Right.
for the sake there. But yeah, for sweep to happen, it's going to take a lot of a miracle there. So
Yep.
It's just been kind of the story of the Brewers season. The offense has its moments, but then the last week it's just been kind of blah. With even the games with St. Louis as well, you split those. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what this team could do in the postseason. Honestly, I mean, you have the pitching staff that can shut teams down, but you got to score runs.
Yep.
And you the bullpen just hasn't been, obviously. And you could go to the Hader trade or whatever you want to do. Even if Hader was there, I don't think that changes a lot of what's ended up happening, because you just have a lot of these guys just not being able to coming in big moments and then giving up the big run. So it's just been kind of, I mean, ugly is the way to describe the last for the Brewers.
Yeah, and ugly the last couple months too, probably
Right.
going back to August if you wanted to with that. Yeah, trade is going to be analyzed and scrutinized all winter, all off season. Brewers will have to answer for it. David Stearns will have to answer for it. Craig Counsell will have to answer for it. I mean, it's going to be an interesting off season. I'll just say that, I think, for the Brewers right now.
Yeah, I would, in my mind, I think Craig Counsell's safe.
Yeah.
I feel like Craig Counsell is probably the manager until he doesn't want to be the manager, unless, they really, like the Ron Renneke where they came out and just laid an egg to start the season or something like that. But I think I'm one of those guys who likes having the loyalty factor. And I think you have Craig Counsell as a guy who wants to be the Brewers manager for as long as he can be. So I hope it stays that way. But and again, I don't know how much you can even put this on him. How much of this is also like just being put in a situation where you have the horses be as good. You have the pitching staff, maybe. I think you have the starters more than that. But the bullpen this year has not been as lights out as it was, a couple years before. And in the second half, they're 34 and 31. So 3 games over 500. Obviously, they had a great first half, but yeah, that second half has just kind of been a struggle all year long.
Yeah, and we'll have all off season to talk about it too. So, but when you look at the current postseason picture right now for Major League Baseball, the American League, Houston Yankees, no change there, 1-2. Tampa Bay 6, Cleveland 3, Mariners. Pretty cool moment to see them clinch it last week and to see the reaction. I did not realize, Justice, last time the Mariners went to the postseason was Ichiro's first year.
Right.
Holy cow.
Yeah, longest streak in sports, or one of the longest streaks in pro sports.
Wow. I knew it was long, but when you put it in perspective, like Ichiro's first year, it's like, dang. Holy crap. And then they're going up against the Blue Jays, the 2 teams I want to see make a deep run. So I'll be good with one of those 2.
It should be a fun postseason. I think the Yankees aren't this vaunted team that if you would have said the first half of the season, everybody would have just said, oh, the Yankees are going to win it. Well, so the second half of the season, how fast that can go away. I mean, they're not even going to win 100 games this year.
Yep. Is Josh going to get 62? He's only got 3 more games to do it.
I'd be okay if he sticks at 61.
Really?
As a native North Dakotan, let's give Roger Maris. I like him having that American League record, but yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, that guy, it's like swinging a pencil.
Yeah.
So he gets a hold of one. It's so easy for him to get a home run. So we'll see. You never know. I mean, it's baseball.
Yep. National League side of things, I think the National League is going to be a lot of fun to watch, Justice. I mean, the A's and Mets, going back and forth this weekend. The Braves and Mets. But Braves, the 2 seed now. Dodgers, we know about them. But if it started today, I'm kind of intrigued with that Mets and Padres series, Justice.
Yes. Oh my, those are 2 teams with such high expectations too.
Mm-hmm.
That I that would be a really fun one. And yeah, I mean, all those teams in there, I think the National League is about as wide open as you can really get. I mean, the Braves obviously have the pedigree after what they've done, but the Mets were right there the whole season as well. Yep. So, and the Phillies, who knows? Phillies have a lot of talent. Hasn't been the greatest, obviously the last month for them as well, but playoffs could change things. So That's why I feel like if the Brewers could have got in, at least maybe make some noise in that first round, especially with the pitching staff. But and they still can get in. And maybe me doubting him as much as I am right now will help the baseball gods turn things around. But
if everything stays the same and everything kind of goes chalk in that first round in the National League, you'd have like the Cardinals taking on the Braves, but then the Dodgers. So like if the Cardinals take care of their business and play the Braves, you're the Dodgers and you're like, hey, you get either the Padres, which very well with the division and such, but then either like the Mets. It's like, hey, you probably wouldn't rather not have that be a first round matchup, I'd have to imagine. Or the Dodgers are just the Dodgers and they probably don't give a crap. So
yeah, I think I'm it's probably like a lot of American League fans. It's like anybody but the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Once we get into the playoffs, I mean, it hurts to say the Cardinals, but yeah, anybody but the Dodgers would be okay with me.
Yep, exactly. If you had to hit your one team just to be a fan of, National League, American League, who would it be?
Oh boy, that's a good one right there. Every one of those teams in the National League, it's I have something kind of in a way against them. Like the Braves, it's like just childhood, being a kid growing up watching the Twins beat the Braves in the World Series. So I've never been able to be a Braves fan. St. Louis, obviously, they're the Cardinals. So, man,
I keep going back to Blue Jays and Mariners just because.
Maybe the Phillies if they get in, because they'd be the big underdog. But that would hurt. Yeah. So I mean, I can't. The Padres. I don't like the Padres for the same reason I don't like the Dodgers.
Right.
They're basically trying to get out there. Obviously, it would be great to see a team like the Brewers do what they did, but in a way, it's like in my head, it's like, oh, they just went and tried to buy this World Series. Right. So, yeah, I would go. It'd probably be somebody from the East. Honestly, would be the teams, and then if the Cardinals, it would be kind of great to see Pujols go out and Yachty and those guys.
Yeah, I mean, dude's at 702 right now. Yeah, people want him to come back next year, and I'm like, no way he's gonna catch. He ain't gonna get like 60 home runs in his final year. Never say never, but I mean, come on, he's not gonna catch that.
I think he should. This is the perfect time to go.
Yeah,
it never usually ends on a high note when you're a slugger like this. And if you can leave hitting with a decent average, with a really good amount of home runs for a 42-year-old player, just go. Yeah, you're not catching Bonds. You might catch Babe Ruth. But you're not going to. He's not going to hit 40 home runs. He's not going to catch Hank Aaron. So I think he's done what he needs to do.
Right. Yep. I agree. I totally agree. So, all right. Brewers again tonight. Arizona, 6:40. Dalton Varsho going to get a couple home runs against the Brewers.
Oh, see, it's got to be a neat moment for him to come back, especially because it's the end of the year,
right?
And I wonder if he even goes home.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, well, I'm back in Wisconsin. I hope he packed heavy and just brought everything with him.
He's coming off of a couple of hits from yesterday, so against the Giants.
Yeah, what a season for him too. I mean, it's good to see. I think we all who saw him play for the Express know the talent that he has and that he could hit home runs. But 27 home runs this year, 73 RBIs. So good for Dalton Varsho. I mean, the Marshfield native showing what he has, and he played baseball at Milwaukee.
Yep.
So it's kind of a homecoming for him. So yeah, that'll be really neat to see what he can do here in his final series.
And how often do we see a catcher that can go play center field, Justice?
Oh, I mean, yeah, he can play anywhere.
Yeah.
He is just that true baseball player. He really is. I mean, he's just a guy who has obviously coming from a baseball family, but he knows, he has those instincts for I wouldn't, if you throw him at third base, I would have no doubt that he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. Just it's that build too. He's 5'10", 200 pounds. He's built like a tank, but he can, he's got that speed too. So yeah, it's been a really fun season to watch him develop and play this successfully.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, all right. So again, last comments here before we let you go here. Do you think? Let me because we put up a poll question, or I did late last night. Who would you rather have as head coach for the Badgers moving forward? Is it Jimmy or is it Lance? And right now, 64.2% going with Jimmy Leonard. But I feel like that number would have been higher if Kansas isn't doing what Kansas is doing this year. Justice.
Right. Yeah, I stick with Jimmy. The Tony legend, the Flambeau High School, the Flambeau Flash. I don't know. But yeah, I want to see him be successful because he's put his heart into Wisconsin. He could have left and went to different places, and he stayed with Wisconsin,
Yep.
and now he's getting his chance there. So I would like to see him get a chance. Nothing to take away what Lance Leipold's done with Kansas this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to see Jimmy Leonard have a chance and hopefully be successful here in this interim stint and then make that full time next year.
I just wonder too with with Jimmy, because we always talk about Paul Chris was a Badger too, right?
Right.
These guys that are, alma mater type of players, but Jimmy's story is unique, isn't it? I mean, coming in as a walk-on, small town Wisconsin kid, then he, goes undrafted, still has success in the NFL. It's a unique story that you kind of wonder how. I feel like there's benefits to his story and his path that he could use as a college football head coach, recruiting, coaching, all that sort of stuff. So we talk, the Scott Frost, all these alumni. Jimmy's unique, though, I feel like, more so than any other potential coach out there.
I mean, the fire that he had to get from where he was from Flambeau High School and the way he played there to be a walk-on to doing what he did to playing in the NFL. He's a guy who, if you've ever interviewed him, he's got that articulate fire too.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's something that, that's why I think they've been able to do so well on defense recruiting wise, is he's got to be one of the biggest keys there. And I think the administration there at Wisconsin sees that and sees the potential of what he can do and what he can bring, not only to being a head coach, but also that recruiting, which is obviously huge in college football. So yeah, I think that story of his, it is a great story. And that's why I want him to be successful. Cause we, kind of just talked about it with Paul Chris. It's always, you always hate that when a guy's Badger through and through, or, and then it ends badly. So for him, I really hope that it goes well. Obviously, even if he, wouldn't get the head coaching job, he's going to get opportunities somewhere else if they don't take him. But I feel like this is a good fit for Wisconsin, and he's going to be able to do big things.
We only got about a minute left, but do you think Paul Chris will be a head coach somewhere else?
That's a good game. He's 57, something like
56,
that. So
57, yeah.
Yeah, so
still fairly young. I mean,
if he chooses to be, yes, I think so. He could. He's getting compensated well.
Yeah,
that he could call quits. But if he still wants to coach, I think he will. I think there's nothing bad about Paul Chris. He's a great guy, and really, he was a great representative for the Badgers. Unfortunately, things just I feel like it was kind of like the end of the Mike McCarthy era with the Packers. Things kind of got stale.
Yep.
And the team wasn't progressing, so it just ended badly. But yeah, I have no bad memories of Paul Chris era. He was a good guy to lead the team. It just didn't end well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Justice. Appreciate the time as always. It always flies on by there, big guy. So
yes, it does.
You have a fantastic rest of your week, okay, bud?
Yes, and everybody out there have a great week as well.
All right, we've got 2 in, 1 more to go. We'll kick off the final hour with some studs and duds after these few words. Already to the final hour. Dan Kasper Show. Appreciate you tuning in. However, wherever you may be tuning in, online, sportstalk1051.com, the app, Google and Alexa devices, video stream, radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Do a little shout out. Where are you guys listening to us from? What do you guys got going on here this morning? All right. Let me know. Hit me up. 715-830-1912 with a quick text. Okay. So we forgot to do studs sports nuggets of the day. We're going to get to studs and duds here in a second. Plus, my Monday morning quarterback pick. Monday morning quarterback. It's the like the second guessing or the biggest question on a decision that was made over the weekend. I've got mine. If you want to play along and make your selections, you can hit me up too. But we'll get to that in a second. But I forgot to do some sports nuggets of the day last hour. I think we just wanted to get into it right away because a lot is going on, obviously, in the state of Wisconsin, Scotty, sports-wise. 1951, CBS aired the first coast-to-coast telecast of a prize fight. Dave Sands defeated Carl Olson at Soldier Field in Chicago. Same day, same year, the Giants won the pennant by beating the Brooklyn Dodgers on a Bobby Thompson bottom of the ninth home run. 1975, Frank Robinson took over the management position of the Cleveland Indians baseball team. First African-American manager in Major League Baseball. 1989, Art Shell became the first African-American head coach in the modern NFL when he took over the Los Angeles Raiders. 2001, actually 1995, O.J. Simpson was acquitted of that trial. The murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. I remember that day in fourth grade. Fourth grade, we had our principal going around the lunch room telling us not guilty. Our fourth grade teacher walked in after lunch, after recess, put it on the board. I mean, fourth graders were crying out loud. So I remember that. Let's go with 2001. Barry Bonds broke Babe Ruth's Major League single season record for walks at 171. And Miguel Cabrera in 2012 achieved baseball's first Triple Crown since 1967. He led the league with a .330 batting average, 44 home runs, and 139 RBIs in the regular season. So those are your late, but those are your sports nuggets for the day. All right, studs and duds time. So my duds, or my dud, actually I'll go a couple of them here, is offenses in Wisconsin. I was going to put up Wisconsin football here, and I guess you still could, but that was an atrocious performance and appearance by the Badger football team against Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini of Illinois. I mean, 10-34 for crying out loud. I mean, 2 yards? Are you kidding me? So, I mean, a dud of a performance from the football team that obviously led to the firing of Paul Christ. But then you got the Brewers over the weekend, not taking advantage, not getting the job done on their own side of things. And then the Packers' first half offense was so for the most part, it was like offenses in the state of Wisconsin here, unless you're UW Stout for crying out loud, football team. But it was like, ugh. So those were my duds from this weekend. My studs, I'm going to go with, I mean, if we want, I think Rashaan Gary is every week, every year, he is solidifying himself as a stud performer, a stud pass rusher in the National Football League. So I got a stud for 52. I'm going to give a stud to David Bakhtiari because, I mean, we all, and knock on wood, nothing bad's going to happen, no setbacks or anything like that. But the fact that he went out there and he balled out majority of the game, whole game, and sounds like everything's still good. But for his comeback, how many of us were ready to put, like, oh, that career's done. He ain't coming back. We all thought it at some point. We all thought it. Even when he did come back, it was like, oh, how effective is he going to be? Is he going to be able to even play a full game? Let's give a shout out to 69 David Bakhtiari, because not only that, but it's been a pretty big week for him. Birthday, yeah, but he's going to be a dad now too. So been a pretty big week for Mr. David Bakhtiari. So And then, Aaron Jones doing Aaron Jones's things too. It's, I think we all just kind of assume that when you look at the contract of Aaron Jones, that we thought, okay, this might be his final year in Green Bay. It's just a lot of money, with them trying to adjust the salary cap stuff and all that. It's like, okay, because you look at his cap hit for next year, it explodes. To compare it, this year's cap hit for Aaron Jones, 5.9. Next year, it jumps up to 20. 20. And if they moved on from him, yeah, it would be a $9.5, $9.6 million dead cap hit, but you're saving $11 million. I think a lot of people just assume, this might be Aaron Jones' final year in Green Bay. But he's number one right now in terms of their best offensive playmaker, for crying out loud. So maybe we need to pump the brakes on that a little bit. Slow it down. I don't know. The guy looks like he's faster. He's hitting the hole more decisive. But he is definitely turning into a big-time playmaker. Or, I mean, he has been a big-time playmaker, but just keep feeding the ball to 33, you guys. But those are some of my studs and duds. We can keep going on with this thing, but I want to hear from you. I don't have the texting line open yet, but that means you still can text, okay? You can still text. I just don't have it up because I don't want to get distracted with all the text coming in there. I got it minimized is what I should say. So keep those coming. We'll get to your studs and duds here in a second. But I want to get to my MMQB, my Monday morning quarterback. I am going to switch it up here a little bit. The Baltimore Buffalo game. And John Harbaugh, I appreciate the aggressiveness of, you're down there, it's tied up, going to go for it on 4th down to try to come away with a touchdown. I appreciate the aggressiveness, but throwing the interception in the end zone and then, not able to stop Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo went all the way down and got a field goal there at the end to win it. But don't you, at that point, I guess for me, I would have taken a field goal. You go up by 3 and you force Buffalo to at least try to get it into field goal range. But to me, I'm probably like, I don't know if I would have made that decision. I don't know if I would have made that one. Or at least the play call. I mean, try to get Lamar Jackson, moving around to the side instead of, just straight up drop back. Let him be a threat going side to side. I mean, there was some, you know what? I'm going to save it for Grind My Gears tomorrow. I'm going to save it. I was going to get into some stuff, especially with the play clock and all that, but I'm going to save it for Grind My Gears tomorrow. That way I've got something. So we'll get to that coming up tomorrow. But that's my Monday morning quarterback is I would second guess the decision by John Harbaugh in the final minutes of the Baltimore-Buffalo game yesterday afternoon, excuse me. So that's my Monday morning quarterback. You guys got a Monday morning quarterback? You let me know. Okay. All right. Obviously, the big news in the state of Wisconsin sports is the Paul Chryst firing. Jimmy Leonhard named interim head coach. Your thoughts? Were you surprised by, I don't know if we were necessarily totally surprised that a change was made, but are you surprised at the timing of it, that it actually, they actually did it? Are you surprised that Chris McIntosh made the decision? What, a week ago? He did an interview. No, we're going to let them coach through this, difficult times, all that. How many days later? Let go. Are you surprised they actually did it? Not surprised that they made a move, but are you surprised they actually did it? And if you haven't voted in the poll yet, would you like to see Jimmy Leonhard be the main man? Lance, down in Kansas. Kansas now in the top 25. The victory against Iowa State. Jimmy Leonard's still 64% of the vote, still winning it there. And is there anybody out there, and please don't be shy. Please don't be shy. But if you want to send me a text or a tweet or Facebook or something like that where you think this was a bad decision by Wisconsin to fire Paul Chryst, you can remain nameless if you want. I don't care. But is there anybody out there that you do not agree with the decision to fire Paul Chryst? You know, if you go down the rabbit holes or the dark places of social media, and, you know, once in a while I'll get down there, I'll just kind of Google, I'll do some search, keywords, see what people are talking about. And one of the things that, you know, I kind of fell upon is, 'cause I want to see what sports fans are talking about across the area, across the country on certain topics. And one thing I kind of found was there was a discussion about, well, I mean, is this a risky move for Wisconsin? Is it a high risk, high reward type of situation? Because there's some people throwing out a comparison to Nebraska. Like when Nebraska moved on from Bo Pelini. Similar records between Bo Pelini and Paul Chryst. And then, you know, after the Bo Pelini thing, Nebraska's kind of struggled since then, right? So there's some people out there wondering, could this be the fate of Wisconsin? You know, you're moving on from a coach who's got over a 700 winning percentage. Is that a little too risky that the grass isn't always greener? I think it's a risk move, but I also think it's a high reward type of move. And, you know, I mentioned it a couple times, but I really believe that this move also signifies that Chris McIntosh and this Badger athletic department have lofty goals, that they want to take this program up another step, up another notch. Great to be, you know, Big Ten West. Talked about being the favorites in the Big Ten West, you know, getting to a Big Ten championship game, getting to a decent bowl game. Great. But I think with a move like this also signifies like, okay, we want to take the next step up. We want to compete for a college football playoff spot, maybe even a national championship. And we feel like the only way to do this is to make this move. And maybe we feel like Jimmy Leonard is that guy that can take us to that spot. Because, I mean, and I think, too, with Chris McIntosh, fairly new as athletic director, right? Worked under Barry Alvarez for how many years? He's a Barry Alvarez guy. He's known Paul Chryst for a long time, too. Paul Chryst is a Barry Alvarez guy. Chris McIntosh could have just said status quo. Could have just stayed it. Could have kept Barry's guy. But like we were kind of saying a little bit earlier, Chris McIntosh just made a decision, too, that really signifies this is my athletic department now. This is my athletic department. I'm the one that makes the decisions. And I think that's a big statement from Chris McIntosh, too. There's no doubt he's putting some chips into the middle of the table here. He's willing to take a risk. He's willing to go out there and try to accomplish some big-time goals. He could just stay status quo if he wanted and, you know, maybe go with a program that wins 9 games a year, 10 games a year, gets a decent bowl game, and, you know, maybe get to a Big Ten championship game here. Could have done that. Would have probably gotten calls a little louder every year from fans wanting a little bit more and such, but this is a big-time move from Chris McIntosh with some risk involved in it. All right. Your thoughts on the move? Is there anybody out there who doesn't like it? Please let me know. I'm really curious to find out. I'm really curious. Majority of, though, from all the texters from this morning, Sure seems like that you're all kind of in favor of it. We'll take a quick break. We'll catch up on some texts. It's been a little bit since I checked it, so we'll catch up on some of those. See what you all have to say. Anybody want to hand out any game balls from the Packers' victory yesterday, too? You can do that. Hit me up with some text, tweets, or Facebook. Let's catch up on some texts. A little bit earlier in the program, we had a texter say, as for letting Paul Chris go, I was surprised it happened during the season. I'm excited for the team, but still surprised. Badgers had to fire Paul Chris. When the play on the field starts to become sloppy and have no intensity, you must make the move. Glad we have an athletic director that fixed the problem before it got worse. This gives you a chance to get to the next coach and save recruitment. We got Mike. Mike, what's up, man? My stud of the weekend has got to be number 52, Rashaan Gary of the Packers. I was a little concerned when he was drafted 12th overall, but wow, he is a beast. My duds are the Brewers, the whole organization. To me, it's kind of like they're ready for the offseason. It's so frustrating. I wish baseball would pay their players auto performance-based salary. Maybe they'd have a little bit more initiative to win. Two thoughts for the weekend. We got one, Paul Chris finally gone. I believe he should have been gone last year. Finally had the ammo to get rid of him. Two, Packers offensive line. Put Jenkins back at guard. You'll have a dominant left-hand side of the line, and put Yash at right tackle. Let's blow away people on the left side of the line, and Jenkins was struggling on right. Just because Jenkins wants big money doesn't mean he has to play there. I was kind of wondering about moving Jenkins back to guard. I don't know if unless they would move John Runyon Jr. over to right guard or that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it looked like he was having trouble with Matthew Judon yesterday. Jenkins was. Now the only thing is would Green Bay are they comfortable putting Yash over there? Because if you remember, Adam Stenovich had said in the preseason that he pretty much said Yash wasn't good at right tackle. Just to kind of say it for what it is. Stenovich said that Yash is much better left tackle than he was right tackle, or is right tackle, and a lot of it had to do with the footwork and that sort of thing. So they would have to be confident that if you put Yash over there, that he could do the job better than what they were thinking just a couple months ago. So, but I agree with this texter where it looked like Jenkins was having a little bit of issue with Matthew Judon over at the right side. Steve from Eau Claire, I don't agree with the timing of firing Paul Chris. I think they should have given him until the end of the season, because I think Mertz is more to blame for what's been going on. When Chase Wolf went down over the summer, I said to myself, this season is either going to be a huge success with Mertz or an absolute disaster. Jimmy has proved, another texter, he knows the X's and O's and can coach a defense and probably lead a team. The question is, can he lead a top recruiting effort? Likely his biggest challenge. Our level of talent has slumped to a low level. That said, never underestimate Jimmy Leonard. I'm confident he can. Another texter, Paul Chris, right move, wrong time. Keep these thoughts coming. Lots of varying opinions out there, which I love to see. So keep those babies on coming. Packers yesterday avoiding, or I should say escaping with a victory against the New England Patriots and their third string quarterback. I forgot one texture too. Metalhead Mold would have been surprised to see the firing in the first week of October, but blown out at home by Illinois changes a lot of things. It lets Jimmy hit the recruiting trail early, I guess. So that was a texture from Metalhead Mold. Packers escaping with that victory yesterday against the Patriots. I know we threw out the Twitter question, was it last Thursday when we had like all those three? Are you nervous about are you still nervous about a Bill Belichick coach team? And it's like 57% said no, not anymore, not this year. Wonder if I took that again, would people be giving Bill Belichick a little bit more credit, or more in terms of like, would they kind of like, well, it wasn't Bill Belichick in that team, it was the Packers in that. I'd be kind of curious if anybody would change their vote. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But when we break it down half by half, there's no question that Packers offense was just god-awful in the first half, outside of the running game. And maybe that's where it was a little frustrating. It's like, just keep feeding the ball to the running backs, to Aaron Jones. I mean, he looked like he was running with his hair on fire in that game. And you kind of wonder how much did, the fumble right away kind of derail some of the things. It's really early in the game for that to happen. I understand that. But, you open up with a big pass play to Allen Lazard. Romeo Dobbs fumbles the next play. But it was just like, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. Aaron overthrowing, pick 6 before the half. Woo. But second half, they come out, look a little bit better, but then the Packers' run defense struggling a little bit. Struggling to stop the run. Matt Patricia. You know what? Matt Patricia was calling plays, and say what it is, but he was making some good calls out there. Tip of the cap to Matt Patricia. Not often could we say that about him, but he was making some plays, or he was making some good calls. Sticking with the run. A little play action going there too. But I think, heading into this game, we were all kind of like, okay, New England's banged up. And they got even more banged up during the game. And it's like, this has got to be a blowout game for Green Bay. And it wasn't. Not even close. Had to go to overtime and no time left for a field goal to get the victory. Aaron Rodgers said it best afterwards. This type of winning is not sustainable. And he's exactly right. Now that we're about a quarter of the way through the season, it's not exactly right because it's a 17-game schedule now. So, it's like halfway through the game on Sunday in London. It'll be like a quarter of the way through the season, whatever, how the math works out. But we're about a quarter of the way. Let's just call it about a quarter of the way. We're close to it. And we've got an inconsistent defense, right? The run defense at least has been pretty darn inconsistent. You allow a bunch of yards on the ground to Montgomery in week 2 in Chicago. You do a really good job of containing Leonard Fournette in week 3 with Tampa Bay. And then week 4, New England, which I think everybody in the world probably knew, especially with the third stringer coming in, that New England wants to run the football. And they struggled. They struggled at times to stop that run. So it's been up and down with that run defense. And I think the jury's maybe still a little bit out with the secondary. Jair missed the game yesterday. Adrian Amos went out with a concussion. But look at the teams they've played, and do we really? We assume on paper, and we assume from what we saw last year, that the secondary will be good in that. But okay, Justin Jefferson lit them up. Chicago, can anybody name the receiver? Tampa Bay didn't have anybody out there. New England. And then you got the Giants coming here, but Sterling Shepard's out for the year. Washington might be the game. Washington, yeah, but the Carson Wentz is the weird factor because you got Dotson, you got McLaurin in that. But Buffalo might be the next one or the real test with that secondary. But we were saying last week, it's like, okay, after 4 games into an NFL season, we always hear these like quarterbacks specifically always kind of say, all right, now we can kind of start to see, where we're at as a team. I know Tom Brady has said that over the years. Aaron Rodgers has said that over the years. 4 games in, you kind of like, all right, now you're starting to really kick it into gear and maybe starting to really see who you are as a team. And what you do well and all that sort of stuff. And honestly, I don't really have a great gauge of what Green Bay is. So just all up and down. I don't have a good game. I don't have a good feel. And it's only 4 games in, so we got plenty more time left. But if we, through these first 4 games, if we start to see these trends of teams really start to like, all right, now we're starting to see who these teams are and what they can do and what they are. I have no idea what Green Bay is right now, other than that they are a 3-1 team. We're seeing individual performers coming out, Rashaan Gary and Aaron Jones, but that's about it. So I want to start to see, now that we are approaching the second quarter of this season, I want to start to see some consistency here. I want to start to see, I feel like this gets talked about every single year, and it's probably a lazy analysis or talking point, but I feel like every single year it gets brought up. Play 4 quarters. Play 4 good quarters. Play 4 solid, consistent quarters. I feel like we say that, everybody says that every single year, and everybody probably says it for every single team, all 32 NFL teams out there. But I think, we're just kind of looking like, okay, we want to know what the identity of this team is. We think it should be running the football. I think one of the identities that we do know from Green Bay on the offensive side of things is that Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, we knew it heading in. It's being confirmed so far. They're talking about how we talked about in the offseason, like how I know I mentioned that I want to see Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon lined up in the backfield a lot. Put one in motion, then you kind of create some mismatches there. We are seeing that. We are seeing them put Dillon and Jones in the backfield together, moving them around, being a part of the offense, trying to create some mismatches. We're seeing that for sure. What we haven't seen from the offensive side is maybe, and the running game had 199 yards yesterday, but I think there was that time, especially in the first half, we were like, okay, can you just stick with the run here for a little bit? But what we haven't seen yet is big plays down the field. We've seen a couple, but not a lot of big plays down the field. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Ups and downs with some of the rookies, which is to be expected. We haven't really seen a whole lot from Bobby Tonyan yet. I thought Robert Tonyan would come in and really have a great season, and maybe he's starting to get there. We got the touchdown yesterday, that seam route. I'd like to see that a little bit more. Are we going to see Randall Cobb involved a little bit more, or is he mostly like a third down type of option? Like, okay, I know where that guy's going to be. I know where 18 is going to be. That's my guy on third down. Defensively, we've seen the ups and downs of the run defense. We've seen Rashaan Gary excel so far. Quay Walker has been making, tackles left and right. He's had some rookie moments, but for the most part, we've seen why he was a first-round draft pick with his speed. Devondre Campbell kind of doing his thing out there too. But maybe we want to see a little bit more consistency with the defensive line sort of thing. Special teams. Yeah, there was a couple moments yesterday, especially with the return coverage. But then you factor in, okay, Ford had to step in and play, safety. Trickle-down effect there a little bit. Did that have an effect? So maybe we're starting to see just a little bit what this team's all about. But we don't have a complete picture, obviously, yet with just 4 games in. Maybe just a little bit. I don't know. I mean, the only thing that I'd be comfortable in saying that we know about this team is like, yeah, they really, really, really want to get 28 and 33 involved as much as possible and get them on the field together as much as possible, which is a duh type of comment. But other than that, it's kind of been some just up and down moments so far. But I think we're starting to get close to figuring it out. Maybe starting to get close to where they're trying to get their feel of like where this offense can go. I mean, that was like in terms of the receivers too, with like Romeo Doubs and such, that was a big play with that back shoulder adjustment catch for that touchdown. And not only for Romeo Doubs, but that's a big play for Aaron to throw that to a rookie. And a rookie, let's face it, who's had a couple of issues with ball security. But that was for Aaron to throw that and to trust Romeo to make that play. I think that was a big moment. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more about the type of overall receiver that Romeo Doubs could be. Now, there are obviously inconsistencies. He's got to hold on to that football. He's got to secure the football, fumbles, making a catch, that sort of thing. But we're seeing him be a deep threat. We're seeing him be a threat over the middle, to the sideline, to a back shoulder type of thing. We're seeing quite an impressive route tree from a rookie in the early goings of this season. Now we just need to see that consistently with 87. Alan Lazard is obviously developed into the number one target. He seems to be a nice safety valve, a guy that Aaron trusts to throw into tight coverages or to make a big play. But, offensively, I don't think we quite know where this team's at, but we're getting hints. We're getting hints. Defensively, it's just a lot of inconsistency with me so far. They've got the talent, and we've seen them have some epic performances. They don't win in Tampa without that defense. But they have just got to continue to stack it left and right, week in, week out. And especially with this upcoming schedule, you've got to take advantage of it. You have to beat the Giants. I know the Giants are 3-1, but the Packers should be a better team. Jets, same thing. Washington, same thing. You've got to win these next three. And it sets up for quite the showdown with Buffalo. And heck, Detroit, I mean, you look at their offense right now. The Lions' offense is on pace to score more points than all but one other team in the NFL right now. That's the Lions. The bad news, though, is that their defense is not that great, and they're on pace to allow, by far, the most points of any team in NFL history. Yeah. All right, last call for any comments, questions, statements, hypotheses, whatever you got out there. Hit me up. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes to finish up this Monday show. Anybody having any luck out in the woods? Still pretty quiet, at least from what I'm seeing of like social media and posts and all that sort of stuff. But if anybody's having any luck outdoors, bow hunting season, a couple weeks into it already, don't forget to upload those pictures to our Tilden Gun Trophy board on our website at sportstalk1051.com. All right, let's cover the bases here this morning. We obviously know what the biggest topics were in the state of Wisconsin. Paul Chris, Packers escaping with a victory. Brewers need a Hail Mary now to have any shot at making the postseason. 3 more games left. 640. The next couple nights here, Brandon Woodruff, Lauer, Corbin Burns. They need to sweep, and the Phillies need to be swept. So, yeah. Other stuff, looking at some of the games across the board in week 4 of the NFL season, you had the Vikings going to 3-1 with a victory against New Orleans. Double doink missed field goal, but it was a long field goal. Almost just a game of inches, right? Almost forced overtime with that long field goal. But nonetheless, Minnesota improves to 3-1. We saw Dallas move to 3-1. Cooper Rush. Oh, man, that dude. Give him credit. He's winning some ball games. Seattle in a high-scoring affair with Detroit, getting a victory 48-45. Bears falling to 2-2 with a loss to the Giants. Philadelphia remaining undefeated, 29-21 victory against Jacksonville in Doug Peterson's return. The Jets getting a victory over Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. The Steelers making a quarterback change at the half. Going to Kenny Pickett. C-Bomb, you still think Mitchell Trubisky's a top 10, top 15 quarterback out there? Buffalo getting the victory, come from behind victory against Baltimore. Tempers flaring at the end of that game with Marcus Peters and kind of upset with Mr. Coach Harbaugh at the end there. But Baltimore falling to 2-2, Buffalo going 3-1. Then we had the Raiders picking up their first win against Denver, and then Kansas City. I mean, coming out hot in that game last night, getting the victory over Tampa Bay, 41-31. Kansas City putting up 28 points by the half. It was 28-17 at halftime. So, to 2-2, while Kansas City improving to 3-1. So, as we mentioned, only one undefeated team left. Before we get to that too, the Tua thing. So the NFL Players Association firing the independent neurologist. Investigation still ongoing with the Tua concussion thing that's going on, but yeah, move there. So kind of noteworthy. But looking at it, only one team left that's undefeated in the entire National Football League, and that is the Eagles. And if you're looking at the Eagles' upcoming schedule, at the Cardinals, home against the Cowboys for Sunday Night Football. Then they got the Steelers, Texans, Washington, Colts, and then they visit, or they're at home against Green Bay on the 27th, again for Sunday Night Football. Some other stuff that I want to catch up on here. We went through a little baseball here. Albert Pujols, 702. We're still waiting to see if Aaron Judge can get to 62. Can he do it in these final couple games here? Can he do it? NBA stuff. So the Bucks fell in their first preseason game in the books on this past Saturday. But if you want a little bit more of a local sense to it, Tyler Herro signing a massive deal with the Miami Heat. He won the Sixth Man of the Year award last year, but he signed a 4-year, $130 million extension. He averaged 20.7 points per game last year and now lands an annual salary worth over $30 million. So big time contract for Tyler Herro, the kid that initially committed to Wisconsin, backed out, went to Kentucky for a year, first round pick. Now he's making a boatload of cash on the NBA side of things, or for his NBA career. He was involved in some potential trade rumors out there, but you kind of wonder now that's probably put to bed here. All right. Let's finish up the program here with a little here's the thing. So Odell Beckham Jr. He's kind of, still recovering from his knee injury. But he had he was obviously watching the Packers game yesterday. Okay? Yeah, if you were on Twitter, you probably noticed it a little bit. Tweeting about Romeo Doubs. He said, Dobbs looks like a good one. He also went out and said too that Aaron Rodgers, is too flame emoji. Honestly, bro makes it look effortless. Some Chris Williamson, who is a media member, tweeted out at him saying that a lot of damage could be done with you and Rodgers. Odell responding, "Who are you telling? That's a different breed right there." So here's the thing. Because the closer we get to halfway through the season, Odell's going to sign with somebody. Odell's going to sign with somebody. Do you want that team to be the Green Bay Packers? Do you want to see the Packers? Do the Packers need Odell Beckham Jr.? Do you want the Packers to go after Odell Beckham Jr., assuming that he's going to be cleared, he's going to be healthy, he's going to be ready to go? Do you think he can be a difference maker after missing, he hasn't played down since the Super Bowl. He's recovering from ACL. He has had no preseason, no training camp, none of that. Do you think that he could be a difference maker for this offense? Or would you rather see more of the snaps, maybe continue to go to guys like Christian Watson or go to guys like Romeo Doubs? Would you like to see those guys continue to get more snaps, get more acclimated to Aaron, build with those younger guys? Here's the thing for me. I just want to win a dang Super Bowl. So, if they can have some depth at certain positions that can make them better, if Odell Beckham Jr. makes their depth better, I'm all for it. Now, I don't know if I would necessarily, let's assume he signs with Green Bay in a few weeks. Let's assume. It's a big assumption, but let's assume it. I don't want to be number 2 receiver right away. I don't want to be number 1. No, you got a ramp up period there, right? You got to work it in there a little bit. But I think what he would do by being on the field, you're instantly asking that defense, or that defense is instantly going to respect him. They're going to go out there like, okay, it's Odell. Until we see something different, it's still Odell. Got to respect that. I would have to imagine that's going to open the door for more opportunities, maybe open up the passing game a little bit more, give opportunities to some of the other guys, in terms of coverage. But, a few more weeks into this thing, you're going to start to hear the calls for it a little bit more. You're going to start to hear more of the rumblings and the rumors, and Odell is playing this perfectly. He's flirting with the Rams. He's flirting with Buffalo. Now he's flirting with the Green Bay Packers. He's sitting there recovering, and he knows he's going to be able to choose where he wants to go and go to a team that is probably going to be a Super Bowl contender, but also to a team that really needs some wide receiver services. So I'm at the point of like, you know what? If it helps out the depth, if it improves the team, I'm all for any moves. I just want a dang Super Bowl. Okay. I just want a dang Super Bowl. Now, I wouldn't expect the Odell Beckham Jr. that's going out there and making the one-handed grabs and, 100-yard receiving games. But if he can go out there and command respect from a defense, maybe open up the passing game a little bit more, we know what we got with the running game right now. We know what we got with that. I don't know what to expect from Odell coming off of another ACL, how he's going to look on the field, but if that can open up things just a little bit more, maybe make things a little bit easier. I'm all for it. That's going to do it for us on this Monday. DP and the Danettes, they're coming up next. The rest of you, have a fantastic rest of your Monday, okay? We'll be back at it again tomorrow for a little Grind My Gears Tuesday. I want some good ones, okay? So think about it. Hit me up with those Grind My Gears tomorrow, all right? Appreciate all the texts, tweets, and Facebook this morning. It was good. We'll talk to you tomorrow.